In today's video, I want to talk to you about all the things I wish I knew before moving to Panama. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any videos related to living abroad, specifically in Panama, travel, and just building a life that is out of the box. If you're new to my story, almost 2 years ago, I packed my stuff, put it in storage, and I left to go travel the world. And along the way, I decided to live abroad permanently. And so now I live in Panama City, Panama, and it has been such a blessing. I've met so many of you, whether it have been online or in person here in Panama, out on the street. And so many of you have given me so much feedback about, my journey inspiring you, or just being a useful resource for you when it comes to navigating Panama, relocation, and living abroad. So thank you all in advance. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and let's get into it. Now, here are the things I wish I knew before I moved to Panama. Number one, I did not know Panama City has so much traffic. The traffic here is pretty crazy. Like, I lived in Atlanta for 7 years and I'm pretty used to traffic. But if I would have known the traffic was like this here, I would have factored that in to my relocation planning. For example, finding an apartment in Panama City is fairly easy because there's so many options. But if you don't know the traffic is bad, you may just pick a spot that you like online and say, oh, yep, that looks great, sign me up. And then you get to the location, the neighborhood, and you don't realize the commute at 5 o'clock is way different than the commute at 1:30. So factor that in. If you're planning on moving abroad to Panama, or you got dinner plans and you're trying to navigate the city, just know between 7 to 9:30 and 4:30 to 7 p.m. you're going to be in traffic depending on where you are. So just be warned, okay? Next, and this is more so not I wish I knew, but something that a lot of people don't know. When you get an apartment here in Panama City, you're going to pay your first month's rent and a deposit, and that deposit is equivalent to 1 month's worth of rent. So whenever you're looking for an apartment, if you see that price and it's $1,100 or $1,500 or $2,000, know that in order for you to move in, you're going to have to pay that twice. And in some buildings, especially the luxury, more high-end buildings, they might have a third deposit, I guess you can say. So you pay first month's rent, deposit, and last month's rent. It's not like that everywhere, but some buildings do have that rule. So just be prepared so that if you are planning to move to Panama City or anywhere, honestly, just ask what their move-in requirements are, because it's going to be different everywhere. But here it is first month's rent and deposit. All right. Next, I wish I would have known more about the visa processes, because a lot of people who I've talked to, they seem to just, snap of their fingers and they get their visa. And honestly, it's gonna depend case by case. But if you aren't someone who doesn't have your paperwork together, you don't have a legal team or a group of people who are working with you to handle those documents, it could definitely take you more time than you may expect. So honestly, I would give yourself time. If you're getting processed paperwork and you're waiting on your visa and you're kind of stalling, or you don't have things in order yet, it could take you a little more time than expected. And if you have already relocated but you don't have your visa yet, that might be an issue for you. So for me, when I first started, I was going to Colombia, I went to Peru, and then I ended up choosing Panama. And I actually ended up running into a time crunch because I was I'll get to it. It shouldn't take that long. Girl, I definitely was playing around. I was playing around. And I think the longest piece was the background check. I don't know why. I think it's because I was afraid that I would have to go back to the US, get a flight, do all the work myself, and then come. I just was dreading having to do that. And so I found an amazing company who did all of that for me. When I tell you white glove service, they did all of it. I didn't even have to touch anything. I mean, obviously I had to give them my information. They took my fingerprints. I had to give them my passport, stuff like that. But That's it. 1,000 out of 10 recommend. So if you are either starting the process to get your visa, whether it's pensionado visa or friendly nations investor visa, or you're applying for birthright citizenship, they will handle everything for you. So if you're looking for someone to like help you out with that, I put a link in my description. Just fill that out. It's a relocation link, and I will refer you to them because they want people who are like ready to go. If you're just thinking about it, I do have a relocation guide. You can get that. That one is like, you can see kind of what you're getting yourself into. But if you're ready, click that link, fill it out, and I will refer you directly to them. All right. Now, the next thing I wish I knew is how high these electric bills can get. Okay. First of all, I wasn't even in my apartment that long, and my electric bill was a little on the high end, okay? But I'm a little nervous because I've been hearing stories about people who say, yeah, you get those first couple of bills, and that's just like a average. They're gonna just take some money. But if you're not prepared for them to actually come read that meter and then tack on whatever else is supposed to be paid, one of my friends said she had an electric bill that was like $600. I said, no. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. I haven't gotten one of those yet. I have not gotten one of those, but I've heard a couple people who said their electric bills were like $500-$600. I was like, what? So something to be mindful of, because it's definitely going to vary by the building, by the location. Most of the content that I push out is related to Panama City, so I'm sure there may be differences in other parts of the country, but for Panama City, some people's electric bills are super high. So I'm not saying that to scare you or you to think like, oh my gosh, I gotta factor in the extra $1,000 for the electric bill. No, it's just something to be prepared for, just in case, so just don't shoot the messenger. Next, I wish I knew how many Black people were in this country. Okay, first of all, Panama is very diverse. It's very diverse. But there's something about being a Black woman from the US who comes to another country that I've never been to, and I see so many people who look just like me, just like my aunts, just like my cousins, just like my uncles. I mean, you couldn't tell me that they're not my family. And one, it's a beautiful thing to see, but then two, it makes me want to learn a lot more about, the Afro-Panamanian culture here, the history behind the people who definitely left their footprint in building the Panama Canal. I think the history in Panama is so rich. It's so beautiful to witness. Even the different dialects here, the food, the flavors that come from different parts of this country, it is so interesting to me. So to be able to go and explore and talk to different people who are Afro-Panamanian or not, but definitely Afro-Panamanian, I'm like, wow, I feel connected to the people here who are of African descent in a lot of ways. And so it's very inspiring, it's very interesting and intriguing, and I love learning about it. And so the familiarity in it makes me feel like cousin, like kinfolk, like I see you, and I really do love that. As someone who grew up in Ohio and didn't really experience a lot of Afro-Latinos, let alone Afro-Panamanians, it's such a shift in my mind, and it sounds very ignorant, but like, I'm just being honest, it's kind of sad to me to think about, how did I grow up my whole life and never experience an Afro-Panamanian? How is that possible? We're right next door. We're right next door. Now, my people from like the East Coast, New York, New Jersey, like I'm sure it might not be as much of a culture shock because there are so many Panamanians in New York, New Jersey, like on the East Coast, and definitely Afro-Latinos in general. But for me, that hasn't been my experience. Like a lot of times I'm walking down the street with my boyfriend who's Panamanian, and when we see other Black US Americans, they greet him like he's from the US. They don't know, you know what I mean? It's almost an assumption like, oh, you must be from the US. No, he's from Panama. And when he starts speaking, people are like, wait, where are you from? He's like, I'm Panamanian. And they can't believe it, So I know I'm not the only one. I'm definitely learning every day. Next, I wish I knew that Panama is definitely a relationship type of place. Here's what I mean by that. When I first got here, I couldn't get nothing done. I'm talking about, I'm trying to find apartments, I'm trying to get my visa stuff going. Like, I couldn't get nothing done. People wouldn't respond to me, or they would respond super slow and all this stuff. And I'm like, what is the... Then it hit me. One, I'm a new girl on the block. Two, I don't know a lot of people. So the sense of urgency might not be the same. So when I tell you Panama has put me in my social girl era, because I have over the years slowly become somewhat of an introvert. And I'm not really an introvert, but I don't know if it's entrepreneurship or whatever sunk me into that place. But being here has snatched me out, okay? I've got everybody WhatsApp, and I'm calling you, I'm saying yes to things, I'm, you know, like communicating on a regular basis. And for those of you who know me, you know that is not my regular, okay? That is not my regular. But I've been learning here, like, to just get out of that shell that I sunk myself into over the past 10 years. And now it's so much easier to, one, get things done, call on a favor, refer people to things, like just having community. And I've built it so easily by getting out of my box and reaching out to people and creating conversations, going to coffee. Like, people ask me, hey, you want to go link up and do this and come here, we can have a meeting? Sure, let's go. Oh, me? Oh my God. I'll be like, ugh. No, social activities, I don't know about that. I have been the most social I've ever been in the past 10 plus years. And I love that for me. But what I've taken away is that having relationships here in Panama goes a long way. So you may find, especially if you're doing business, that if you know somebody, you gonna probably get something done a lot quicker. Next, this might not be a what I wish I knew. I think it's more so what I wish other people knew. I wish other people knew how spread out Panama is in terms of the beaches. Because I think a lot of people come into Panama City thinking that they're going to go to the Cinta Costera, like that strip that I was telling y'all about, and like go swimming in that water. You not going swimming in that water, okay? Nobody's going swimming in that water, actually. It's not a beach. So Panama City itself is not a beach town. Now, granted, you could go to like Toboga Island, which is not that far. It's probably like maybe a 30-minute ferry. Yes, you can get in the water there. The beach is pretty nice. But when people Google Panama beaches and they see these like crystal clear waters and the resorts and things like that, they automatically attach that to Panama City. And then they get like an all-inclusive resort at the Rio. And then they show up and the Rio is smack dab in the middle of the city, no beach. So please know before you plan your trip what kind of environment you want to be in, because if you're coming to Panama City, Panama, you're not going to the beach unless you like travel to the beach. For example, San Blas is one of the most popular beaches here, and it's about 3-ish hours away. So if you're not expecting that and you get here and you're like, yeah, let's go to the beach, you gotta book the trip, you gotta plan transportation, you know? And some of these transportation or like tour companies, they do like day trips, which means 3 hours there, spend time at the beach, 3 hours back, you know? And so if you're on limited time, that might kind of put a damper in your trip. So just be mindful of where you want to be. Another example, Bocas del Toro. I haven't even been yet, and I can't wait to come back and tell y'all about when I do go. But Bocas is like 6 hours away. So, or I think it's an hour and a half on a flight. So I could be wrong on those numbers. If I am, please correct me, but that's what I remember being told. Either way, it's not a hop and a skip. It's a hop, a skip, a plane, a train, an automobile. So you need to make sure you're planning accordingly, because if you want to go to the beach, you're going to have to plan a trip to the beach. You know what I mean? So I just thought I'd share that, because I feel like a lot of people hit me up and they're like, what resort should I stay in? And what beach should I go to? And I'm like, they're referring to Panama City. I'm like, no. So just plan your trip out accordingly. Last but not least, well, at least for this video, because I might have to do a part 2 to this one, I wish I knew about Panama sooner. I can't believe I've gone my whole life not knowing about how much this beautiful country has to offer. Anybody you ask who has relocated to Panama, almost 9 times out of 10 has the exact same reaction. And it's like, How did I not know? We're literally right next door. It's such a big, beautiful place. And it's so vibrant. It's so full of culture. It's so full of great energy. And I hear a lot of people say, like, stop telling people from the US to come over here. They're going to ruin it. And I think that's such a terrible reputation to have, which means we got to do better, my people from the US. Okay? Y'all know how we can do. Come to a place, next thing you know, we done tried to turn it into our own. It's like, when you come here, I would encourage anybody to just be open to the culture, the community, the land, the people that are already here, instead of trying to twist and turn it into the thing that you want it to be. That is one of the ways, or the way, that I believe I've had the best experience here, is not just like hiding off or secluding myself in an expat bubble. Go immerse yourself, learn the language, appreciate the food, be open. Don't expect the US, if you're coming from the US, don't expect the US here, you know? Go explore, do some research, learn the history. Like, the more I learn, the closer I grow to this country. And it's such a blessing to be here. There's so many people who I've connected with. There's so much community. Appreciate Panama for what it is. You know, it's growing constantly. I mean, even in the almost 2 years that I've been here, I've seen so many changes. I've seen so many people, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. So if you can find a way to contribute to that in a positive way, then go for it. And if you find yourself taking from it in a negative way, then check yourself. That's really it for this video. I don't know, maybe you guys can put some stuff in the comments on things you wish you knew before moving to Panama, or if you're planning on relocating and or visiting and you have questions, put them in the comments. I would love to make a video about it, maybe give you some insight. I feel like I have learned from 0 to 100, and I have so much to share. So definitely share your 2 cents in the comments. And for those of you who asked on any of my social media platforms about the relocation guide, I put that together for people who want to understand what they can expect. Cost of living, visa options, neighborhoods, banks, opening up a bank account, like things like that. I put all of that in that guide, so you can see that. Link is in my description as well. And then one of my most popular ones is my Easy Spanish Travel Guide. I just updated it because I've been learning some new Spanish, so definitely check it out. I created that because when I first started, I would have a hard time like ordering things in Spanish, going to get my coffee, what to say in the Uber. It was like real world stuff that I hadn't been taught, and some stuff that Google Translate would just kind of like translate directly from English to Spanish. And so now that I've been learning more natural ways to say things, I put those in my Easy Spanish Travel Guide. So that link is also in the description. Other than that, make sure y'all hit the subscribe button. I have some more to come, so don't forget. Okay, I have some really great stuff coming up, some exciting things to share with you guys. So definitely tune in, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye.